You're listening to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, Accelerated Edition number 23. Today, I speak with multi-passionate and multi-talented life coach, Kasia Cuvilier, on the way that she found the love of her life. Welcome to the Faith Breathed Hope podcast, where we gain inspiration and motivation from others who share their touching stories of renewing hope and discovering purpose in any circumstance. I'm your host, Christina Reisinger, and today we will be encouraged by another tremendously inspirational topic that will embolden you to release fear, begin taking small steps forward, and move into your God-given purpose to live and serve in this life. Join me for today's story. Hi, Kasia. How are you? Welcome to Faith Breathed Hope.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to have you here. Kasia is a woman of many, many talents and multi-passionate as well. So the first thing I want you to do is just tell the audience a little bit about you, what those talents are. You have multiple degrees and things that you have done. So can you just tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Okay, yeah. So I have a master's degree in philosophy because when I was in high school, I got really passionate about philosophy. I had a very good teacher, so he encouraged me to pursue philosophy. So I did that. Then I did postgraduate study in communication, and I also am very passionate about art. So I did bachelor degree in graphic design. And since I was a kid, I loved music. So I loved singing and drumming especially. So I've been playing drums for over 20 years now. I went to a music school and then I won a scholarship. I went to Denmark to study there for half a year. So, and I've been teaching drums as well and art. So that's my passions. And I also love dancing. I've been doing dance competitions for a while as well. So yeah, I have a lot of passions.
That is awesome. And you know, we were speaking before we started recording, and I just was fascinated by how many different things. So many of us are multi-passionate now, and you know, I'm always interested in arts of any kind, really, but music, art, dance as well. I'm a dancer too, so or have been.
Great.
So, Kasia, today we're going to talk about finding the love of your life and how God led you to that, you know, after you had some things that happened in the earlier part of your life. Can you start sharing your story with the audience?
Yes. So I had a really difficult year. It was like a few years ago. First, I lost my uncle to cancer, and I watched him like getting sick and die because he was living in my apartment at the time. Because it was really hard. And then I also lost my dog that I had for 18 years. And I was really attached to it because I had it since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And then the worst thing was losing my beloved grandma. Like it really hit me because she was always this constant in my life and I never imagined losing her. And it was very sudden. I just received a phone call that she's dead and I wasn't prepared for it at all. So I started getting anxiety attacks. Like it was really bad. I fainted and I couldn't leave the house because when I left, my head would be spinning and I had to go back. I couldn't be on my own. So it was really hard. The worst was like going to the mall then where it was lots of lights and people. Like I really struggled there. And I was also in a bad relationship with someone who like I tried to end the relationship, but they would tell me that they would kill themselves. And like it was really toxic relationship. So it was all that, and then I ended up in hospital with my heart acting out because of all that stress I had. And I knew I had to do something. And there was days that I would just lay in bed and pray because I couldn't even watch TV or nothing. The anxiety was so bad. So I was praying a lot, and I was reading a lot of books about faith, and because I always believed in God, but I really needed that help like even more now. And I also decided to go to therapy to help me end the relationship and like move on. So I was praying a lot, and then I had this thought in my head that I should go to Brazil for pilgrimage. It just like came to my mind, okay? So after a week from that, like having that thought, I received an email from my friend who said, "We have one space left. Do you want to go to Brazil with us?" I'm like, "Oh, wow, I just thought about it. That's amazing." I'm like, "Okay, let me think about it." And I was wondering, well, how will I go to Brazil? Because I lived in Poland back then. It's a long trip. And I'm like, I can't even go, alone on a train. I'm gonna go hop on a plane and fly for like 14 hours, go to Brazil with people I don't know. And I was scared because all the like exotic disease like malaria, dengue, and they say Rio's dangerous. So I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, I will turn to prayer again. So I had this calendar with scripture for every day. So on that day, I opened for the scripture of that day, and it said, "Go and make disciples of all nations," which was the motto of that pilgrimage. Because the pilgrimage happens like every 4 years, and every year it has their motto. And this was it. I'm like, okay, like if it was anything else, but it was exactly that. Like how, I'm like, I have to go. And I had this thought that I will meet the love of my life there. Like I wanted, it was the first time I finally ended up the bad relationship, and I was finally ready to focus on myself, because I was always in relationships and I didn't really get time to get to know myself. So I'm like, I'm going to focus on God and on myself. But I had this thought that I might meet someone there. And I went on a plane, and I was full of, anxieties. But once I went on a plane and I prayed, it all left me. Like I felt so safe and peaceful, and I wasn't scared at all. So I got there, and first week I spent in Aparecida. So it's a city. They have a sanctuary for Mary there, and there was all people from all over the world in the same place. And I noticed this one man there that I was like, oh my God, I have to meet him. I don't know what was it, but I knew I had to meet him. But we were with our group, so it was hard to, be alone to meet anyone, a part of your group.
Sure.
But this one day, I was outside of the hotel room, and he was just in front of me alone also. I don't know how it happened that I was alone and he was alone there. And I saw he was like playing with his hands on his knees, like drumming. And I'm like, oh my, he must be a drummer too. So I approached him and I said, okay, where are you from? And what kind of music do you like? I didn't want to ask, oh, are you a drummer? Because I'm like, if he's not, that's going to sound funny. So he said, yeah, I'm from Canada. Yeah, I play drums in this band. I'm like, oh, I play drums too. And we start talking. And then my group was going to some meeting. So I had to go. And I don't think I even introduced myself. So I had the name tag, but it was my full name, which is Katarzyna. It was hard to read for him. So I went to this other meeting, and then he found me, and he asked if I want to hang out with his group. So we played guitar and we talked almost all night there, and it was like we knew each other forever. It was amazing, like constant connection. And he said, like, because we were going to Rio after the Aparecida, and he said, if I would meet you there, like, I could even propose right away. So imagine, we just met, okay? We just met. So yeah, it was like amazing connection. And then we hang out for this few days in there, like as much as we could with our groups. And then we had to go to Rio. So we went with separately. He was with his group and I was with his group. And he didn't have a working phone. Like, he had access to internet. I had some access to internet, but we couldn't communicate, like call each other or text each other. So we're like, we're going to try to find each other in Rio, but I don't know how it will go. So he was in a different part of the city. I was in favelas. I was accommodated in favelas with a very nice family. And he was in a totally different part of Rio. And we were like, there was people going with flags because there was like millions of young people coming to this meeting. So I was running to every Canadian flag, and he was running into every Polish flag to try to find each other. But, it was like almost impossible. And there was a last chance. It was a meeting on Copacabana Beach. And I wrote him a message. I left him a message that I'm going to try to be at the tallest hotel on Copacabana Beach at 9:00. And I didn't know if he will see the message or if I will be able to get there. But it was last chance to see each other because the next day we were leaving. So me and my group were approaching Copacabana Beach, and there was so many people, it was blocked. Like, we couldn't even get in. So I was praying, please, God, let me meet him if it's your will. Of course, if it's not your will, that's okay, but I would really like to see him. So, so in the morning, me and my group separated with our the father who was like leading our group, and so my group was praying also what to do, and we all had the thought we should meet with the father. So I texted him, and he said, "Can we meet in front of this hotel?" Which was where I was supposed to meet Dylan. It was his name, the boy. Yeah, I'm like, oh my, this is perfect because I can't leave the group now because I will never find him. It was 3.5 million people at the meeting on Copacabana Beach.
Oh, wow.
So it was packed. Like, I have pictures from the top, like from aerial view, and it's like little ants on the beach. Like, it was packed. So it was so convenient that we all were gonna go to the same spot. And when we prayed, the crowd like separated like the Red Sea and they let us in. So now we were walking toward the place and I was already late. It was like already like 9:30. I'm like, oh my, I don't know if it's gonna be there, but I was hopeful. So we were walking, and as I was approaching the hotel, I saw him walk from the opposite side, and it was like slow motion romantic movie. We just ran into each other's arms, and I said, never leave me again. And it was just amazing, like the feeling, oh my. So we spent the night on the Copacabana beach because it was vigil. So we were talking all night and then all day, and then we had to part. So it was really hard. I went back to Poland. He stayed a little longer in Brazil, but then he went back to Canada. And we were talking every day, like every day on Skype.
Yeah.
And we were talking on Messenger too and texting each other nonstop. It was hard because there was a time difference, 8 hours. So I would stay up late. I didn't sleep at all. And then he was waking up early to talk to me. So we were talking to each other and we're like, we have to see each other. But because of the Brazil trip, we were out of vacation days. Like I had few days left and he didn't have any more left. So I decided to visit him. But when I mentioned that, my family was like, you just met this boy in Brazil and you're gonna fly to Canada to see him. That's crazy. I'm like, yeah, wow. I was praying on it again. And one day at work, I was just like, no, I'm buying the ticket. The price is going up, going up. And I bought the ticket. And I went and I was like, oh, how will I feel when I see him again? It was a few months after when we met. And when I saw him at the airport and he like picked me up in the air and spun me around and we hold each other and it was like amazing, like we never parted. So I met his family then and his friends. And it was great. And then and we played some music together. We went to some open mic shows and he played drums, I played drums. It was really nice. And then I went back and then he visited me in Poland for my birthday, which is actually in 2 days. So it will be 7 years now. Yeah. And we went to Paris for Valentine's Day. And on Valentine's Day, we went for a nice dinner and then we went to the Eiffel Tower and then he proposed to me.
Lovely.
Yeah, and then it was full moon and the Eiffel Tower started sparkling and it was like so magical. And we called his parents and his dad was like, so how many days you actually guys seen each other? You're like, well, maybe it was 2 weeks, but we talk to each other every day. And you know what? Oftentimes when people live close together, they will like watch TV and do things and they don't really get the time to really get to know each other. And we had to talk. We had to talk about everything. So we really got to know each other really well. And yes, so we got engaged and then he visited me again in May and we went to Rome that time. And then I visited him, we went to Seattle. We love traveling, so it was great to just visit those places together. And then we ran out of vacation days. We had to get married finally. Now we always joke that we ran out of vacation days. So yeah, we had a beautiful big wedding in Poland and then in Canada. So his family flew into Poland and we have big wedding, 6 year. We just celebrated our 6-year wedding anniversary. So it was, yeah, the wedding was amazing, but then one of us had to move, right? So there was the negotiations and yeah, he won. So I moved to Canada because he said, you already speak English. It's going to be easier for you. And so, yeah, I moved to Canada and it was really hard to live my family, my job. Like I really like my job. I work at the International Relations Office at the university. So I got to travel a lot for work and I had my bands there where I played music and played shows and, you know, my whole life. And then I was moving. I think when I was moving, I was 30 years old. So yeah, start your life again when you're 30. It's not easy. So right. At first I couldn't work because I had to wait for my work permit. So I was just traveling with him for work. And then I started painting a lot. I painted a lot of like space paintings. I love space and because I'm really into, physics, quantum physics and all that stuff. I was going to write PhD on that, but then I gave up on it. Anyway, so I was painting a lot and then I tried to get a job in international relations as well, but it didn't work out. So my husband said, okay, well, you play drums, you know, like you're finished art degree, so maybe you should teach. And actually I was teaching painting for a while and then I was teaching drums as well. And of course we tried to have a baby and it wasn't happening. So we're really sad because we really wanted a baby. And we went to another pilgrimage. It was in Poland this time. The same, it's World Youth Days, so it's a meeting with Pope. So this time it was in Poland, and we went and prayed for the baby. And then we got back, and I was planning my trip to Poland to visit my family. And then just like 2 weeks before my trip, when we already not gave up, but yeah, we thought maybe it's not gonna happen. And I had one more test left, the pregnancy test. And I woke up one day and I just did it. I was so asleep. I don't know why I did it, because we already thought it's not gonna happen. And then I go on my day. I went to church. It was Sunday. And then I get back from church and I look at the test and it shows that I'm pregnant. I'm like, but it was like not really clear. So I'm like,
Right.
you know what? Go buy me another one. So he went and bought another one and it confirmed. And I was so happy. I canceled my trip because I didn't want to risk anything. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I waited for this baby for so long. I'm gonna be careful. And then I had some heart issues during pregnancy, so that was scary. But finally, my baby was born, and oh, she is so cute. She's gonna be 18 months now.
Oh.
And now, actually, I had to take my husband to hospital last Friday because, like, he ended up in a hospital on Christmas Day this last year because he had trouble breathing. So they took him to hospital and we didn't know what was going on. They gave him antibiotics. Of course, they did COVID test. It was negative. They gave him steroids. They thought it's asthma attack. So they let him out of hospital. Then a few weeks after, he couldn't breathe again. So I had to take him again. And then they let him again. They didn't know what it is. They gave him IV antibiotics and steroids again. And the steroid made him swell. And it was bad. And I was calling the doctors. I said, you should check his heart because his EKG showed some irregularities. Yet they didn't check anything. And I was pushing really, like, you should check his heart. And they didn't. And then finally he got a meeting with cardiologist, but the tests were scheduled for like February 18th and some for April, and he was feeling worse and worse. And then he fainted on Thursday last week, and on Friday I got him to the hospital, and we just found out he has a heart failure and he'll need a pacemaker. So, and he's 33 years old. So that was really, unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still processing it. He's still in a hospital getting all the tests done. So again, my anxieties are like, I'm really anxious now, but I pray, like prayer helps me calm down. I honestly don't know how people who don't believe deal with things like that, like stressful situations, because prayer really helps me calm down. And I know there is different ways, like you can distract yourself, you can do breathing and this and that, but ultimately I think prayer is my number one.
Mm-hmm.
And just trusting God that it's his will and his plan, and it will be what he wants to.
Yep. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm a sucker for a love story. So thank you for sharing all of that. We definitely see that you were in prayer. You had, delivery out of an adverse situation, some grief that was going on. And then you continue to pray. So there's that prayer without ceasing. And that the Lord has opened doors for you. And every single time you hit that wall of adversity, you went to him in prayer, and he continues to open doors for you. And so my big question for you is, I'm a big believer of, praying without ceasing, but I'm also a believer in surrendering without ceasing. So I think maybe some people think that you just give him something and you lay it down and then you walk away. But at least in my brain that goes 500 miles a minute, I have to like push out those thoughts, that stinking thinking that we were talking about earlier, and I think a lot of people go through that. They get these ideas in their head and it's really difficult to push them out. And so prayer is probably a very key component of that surrender, give God that stinking thinking, and then pray on that. Is that what you would suggest to people who constantly, because you see life as is a roller coaster, that you're
Yes.
not up all the time and you're not down all the time, but constantly going to God in prayer and constantly surrendering is what helps us persevere. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, surrendering. Yeah, I agree totally. And like I said, yeah, I'm grateful every day too, like gratitude and
Mhm.
praising the Lord, even in the difficult circumstances. So you know what? Actually, the day like on Christmas, he went to hospital, and I woke up. I woke up that day, and I was so full of praise and like so happy that day. Like I felt God's presence, and I was like worshiping God, like and it really helped me after too in this difficult moment. And I try to be grateful in every situation and surrender to God, because I believe He is guiding us. And you can only do as much yourself. Yeah, of course
Mhm.
we should like work on ourselves too, of course, right?
Right.
But God is the one who's helping us, and
Mhm.
His will, right, is important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you mentioned that earlier. You said when you were praying for your husband, and you said Dylan. Is that what you said his
yeah,
name? When you
yeah,
were praying for Dylan, and you said, God, I want this, but if it's in your will, and I
yes,
think that's very important, because when we're aligned in God's will, um, even if it doesn't work out the way that we want, if we are aligned with His will, then He will comfort us in that, and
exactly.
give us something different to focus on.
Yes, because many times you're in a relationship, and then you really wanted to make it work, but then it doesn't, and years after you see it wasn't good for you, but at
Hmm.
the time you didn't see it.
Hmm.
And so God knows better what's best for you. So even if something's not working out, and maybe it's for the best, and
Hmm.
it's something better will come out of the situation.
Definitely. I love the whole idea of the fact that He is our Heavenly Father. That never clicked with me until I became an adult. But he really is a true Father, where He can see the things that we can't see, and He can see the consequences and the effects of our things on our lives, and wants the best for us, and the best for His kingdom. And I think that oftentimes we miss that mark, and knowing that He really cares for us in that way. And I love the fact that you brought up gratitude and thanksgiving, because when Scripture tells us that we are supposed to go for Him, or to Him rather, sorry, with our prayers and our requests, but in thanksgiving. So that is and can be very difficult when you are in that space of grief, in that space of anxiety.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can be asked, what can you be grateful for? What can you be thankful for? And it's very difficult to pull those things up. But when you do, you're able to start having uplifting of spirits. I guess that's where that peace that surpasses all understanding can come in as well. That ease of comfort, but then that place of gratitude and thanksgiving, and it really helps bring that joy into your life,
Yeah,
and that hope,
exactly.
even, right?
Yeah, gratitude is a big part of living with joy, I believe. And
Hmm.
yeah, I really this year and last year made me even more grateful. I always was grateful for everything. I had a gratitude journal and all that, but this year really made me even more grateful. And I'm grateful for everything. Even now in this situation that I'm like really scared for my husband,
Hmm.
I'm grateful that just my mom visited me, because me alone with the baby now in this hard situation would be really hard.
Hmm.
And COVID time, so can't visit anyone. No one can visit me. So
Yeah.
it's really, yeah, but I find the things, and every day he wakes up and I'm so happy. And also this year I pursued minimalism too last year. And so I started decluttering my house and my clothes and donating a lot. And it hit me even more, like how much do I have, like how blessed I am, all these things, clothes and not only things, but friends and family and faith and everything. And it made me even more grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so
That's
yeah.
awesome. So I'm going to ask you to give about two different types of advice, okay, or suggestions, encouragement. Actually, encouragement, that's a better word. So the first thing is, you know, if you're speaking to somebody in the audience and they are in a similar situation that maybe that you find yourself in right now with your husband, and you know they have everything in the world to be thankful for, but then there's this circumstance, this situation of adversity that has seeped in, and may or may not seem hopeful on the outside. How can you tell them to keep their heads lifted? I mean, would you just go to and say prayer, or you have any words of encouragement for those women or even men who are in that space right now?
Yeah, I think a prayer, number one, reading the Bible really helps me. Every night I even listen to the Bible recordings. It helps me stay calm and fall asleep because
Mhm.
otherwise I wouldn't be able from worrying. And
Mhm.
just trusting God that he wants what's best for you. And sometimes we might not see it at the moment, but overall we'll understand someday, I believe. And just keeping your spirits up and be grateful, praise God, and just pray. And that in that hard situation, I would recommend that, yeah, especially the prayer.
Mhm.
And yeah, maybe if you go through also a hard situation, try to find something that can help you, maybe distract from worrying also. Like if you have a hobby like painting or music or dancing or whatever, to just make something that brings you happiness, that also helps
Mhm.
keep
Definitely.
your spirits lifted. Yeah.
Definitely. I would agree with all of that. Maybe even try something new. Um,
Yes.
the next thing I wanted to ask, if you would give some encouragement for that single lady out there who thinks that, you know, she doesn't know if she's going to get married. She wants desperately to find the love of her life.
Yeah.
You know, she knows that there's more out there, but, you know, first of all, would you tell her to be satisfied alone? I mean, what kind of encouragement would you give her?
Yeah. So for me, it happened when I actually stopped looking for someone, but I just took it all to God and I prayed, and I knew if it's His will to find me a husband, I will meet that person.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, I would encourage you to focus on developing yourself and make sure, like working on forgiveness and things like that, because you have to be ready to meet someone that you don't maybe, because sometimes when we have issues from the past, it's hard to enter the new relationship
Mhm.
and everything works.
Mhm.
But you have to work on yourself too first. And like if you have some forgiving to do, then do it. Forgive yourself and forgive others, and pray again, and just be, don't lose hope.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
maybe it's good you're now alone. It's God's part of God's plan. But if it's His will, you will find that person. Like for me, I was in a relationship for 4 years and I thought maybe it was it, but then it didn't happen. And yeah, I was sad for a while, of course, and when I was alone. But then, like I said, I prayed a lot and I focused on like healing myself,
Mhm.
and then I was ready to enter a new relationship, and
Right.
it happened. Yeah.
Definitely. And God's timing is much different than ours
Yes,
most of the time. I can remember
exactly.
I can remember thinking that I was very affectionate towards a young man when I was in college, and just thinking my heart was broken. And then, years and years later thinking, my goodness, how things would have been so much different. I wouldn't be with my husband now. So it's a good thing sometimes that those
Exactly.
work out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, exactly. I see now my past relationships, thankfully didn't work out. And at that time I was really sad and struggling, but now I'm happy about it. So everything can change. So yeah, don't give up, don't lose hope.
Awesome. All right, Kasia, can you tell everybody where they can find you if they want to?
Yeah, I have a website. It's walkinjoy.com, walkinjoycenter.com. And I have a program there for busy women. I help them live with joy and fulfillment. So I have a program where we work on mindset, forgiveness, relationships, and not only relationship with your spouse, but with yourself and with God. Mm-hmm. And I use tools like minimalism, like I mentioned, because it really changed your mindset, and it's according with Christian values too, not just accumulating things on earth, but sharing and gratitude and giving back, contribution, because I think it's all part of a fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to connect with me, that would be great. Yeah, it's walkinjoycenter.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Kasia. I would really have enjoyed this conversation. I want to remind all of you listening that praying for one another and holding one another up, when we can't stand ourselves is wonderful. And you're called to that. You're called to stand with one another in community and fellowship. And so I would just urge you to stand together in prayer. And Kasia, we will be praying for your husband as well.
Thank you so much.
And it was so good talking to you. Guys, continue to be blessed and bless others. And we will see you next time. And I want to thank you for joining us on Faith Breathed Hope, where you gain inspiration and motivation to renew hope and discover purpose in any circumstance. Please like and share this podcast and give us a review on iTunes. Be blessed.